Welcome to the Softland Central podcast, your home for market entry knowledge and resources. Softland Central is brought to you by Softland Partners, an online marketplace to help you find best fit resources for your market entry. Find them at softlandpartners.com. Welcome to Softland Central, the home of market entry knowledge and information. So today we're welcoming a great friend, Tamas Novak from the Hungarian Consulate General in New York. Welcome, Tamas.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you again.
Well, it's great to see you, Tamas. And just so you know, our audience are companies, our economic development professionals, and entrepreneurs from all over the world. And really, what we'd like to do today is give them a little sense of the Hungarian consulate in New York and certainly what you're doing. And you guys are working so hard, I know, to help Hungarian companies come to the U.S. and also helping U.S. companies find great new opportunities in Hungary. So we really just want to spend a little bit of time learning about that. But if you wouldn't mind, tell us, if you would, a little bit about the Hungarian consulate in New York and your mission, kind of what you all are focused on.
Yeah, sure. The diplomatic missions has always had the task to do business and to promote the business between the two countries, in this case, between the United States and Hungary. So we have an embassy in Washington, D.C., and we have a couple of consulates all over the United States, like in New York City and in Los Angeles and Chicago. So these are the basic major regional focuses of our activities here. And regarding doing business between the two countries, we have several tasks to perform. The first is the promotion of foreign direct investments between the two countries, which means that attracting additional investments from the United States and at the same time promoting Hungarian companies which would like to invest in the United States. The United States is the second biggest investor in Hungary. So there are a lot of US firms has already invested in the Hungarian industries, in many industries. So we have a long history with dealing with American investors in Hungary. And there is a big network in Hungary which tries to promote and attract these investments, which mostly related to the Hungarian Export Promotion Agency and Hungarian Investment Promotion Agency, which means that they provide information for all interested parties which would like to know more about Hungary, what kind of support is available in Hungary, which industries are the best to invest in, what are the competitive advantages of the country. So there are a lot of information which is available for potential investors. And if you want to connect with these Hungarian institutions, just connect us first and we will help you to reach the right persons and the right institution. So this kind of investment promotion is very important because Hungary is a very open country in terms of international trade. There are many big German companies has already invested in Hungary, Japanese, Korean firms as well, and obviously American firms as well. So we are in the center of Europe, within the European Union, which also means that if you invested in Hungary, you reach a very big market because there are no barriers to trade among the European Union member states. So if you invested in Hungary, you can very easily export your products to Germany or to Spain and to Portugal, and you would not face the trade barriers. That's very important. So, and it makes it's quite strange that you invest in a very small country like Hungary, which has 10 million population, but you reach at the same time a very large market, which consists of 500 million people. So it's even bigger than the United States in terms of the population, of course. So that's one thing, the promotion of investments. And in relation to investments, of course, the exporting Hungarian products to the United States, because as I mentioned to you, that the Hungarian economy is a very open one. In terms of export per GDP, Hungary is one of the most open countries in the world. There are only a few countries has higher export per GDP ratio than Hungary. So we are very much interested in selling products abroad. And obviously, the United States is a big market. We are very much interested in selling products in this huge market. So this is one thing. The second basket of our activities is related to startup companies. There's a lot of cultural differences between the United States and Europe, and the United States and Hungary, which sometimes makes it very difficult to do business. Because first you must understand the target market, you must understand the business practices, and you must understand the logic of the people and the thinking of the people. So that's why we must educate the Hungarian companies which are interested in the US market. It's not always necessary, because there are very good companies in Hungary where the managers or the CEOs studied in the United States, so they know everything. But in most cases, and you see Hungarian companies as original Hungarian companies do not have such kind of connections with the US, then it's very difficult to understand how to do real business in the US market. So we would like to educate these people, to educate these companies through various channels. The one is that providing for these companies education and resources at home in Hungary. So in Hungary, there are many incubators or service providers who try to prepare these companies for the US entry, but it's not enough. In most cases, it's insufficient. So the next step is to bring these companies in the US and to show them how does this work. One of the opportunities, and this is a quite new development, that we could establish a so-called Business Promotion and Development Center in Washington, D.C. It means that Hungarian companies can come to this location and they will get some services from local service providers. So they educate them in marketing, in selling practices, and finances, and things like that. So we would like to show them how does the US market is operating. The second thing is that we are trying to organize for them various events, pitch events. I would say that in most cases in-person events, especially in our New York consulate, prior to the crisis, prior to the virus came. And these are very, very good and very successful, because we have a wonderful location, we have wonderful food and wine. Are always have always been famous of providing very coming to the consulate, and sometimes it's a very good pairing of pitching competition plus eating Hungarian food and drinking Hungarian wine. And during these events, you can network a lot. So what we did in the past was we tried to regularly organize such kind of pitch events, sometimes competitions, but in other cases only showcases. So that was very important part of our activity, and I believe that after 6 or 8 months we can return to this in-person event. Here we changed our strategy due to the circumstances, so we started to organize various online events, and I think that we were very successful in this, comparing to other country consulates in New York City, that we organized at least 4 or 5 such events. It meant that we selected 3 or 4 companies, Hungarian companies, in various industries. And then we found US mentors like Bill, like you, and other very good people. And we organized these events, very short events, one hour event where the companies could introduce themselves, and they received some feedback from our mentors. And then there is a follow-up process, which means that these mentors can start to work with these Hungarian companies. So that's what we did in the past couple of months. So this is the other area where we are very active. And the third area is related to Hungarian scientific diaspora and Hungarian business already operating in the United States, because in the past several decades, a large number of Hungarians came to the United States and they became very successful, either in sciences or in the business. Just to mention that the most recent very successful scientific achievement was related to the COVID-19 vaccine, because the Pfizer vaccine was based on a Hungarian scientific achievement. Katalin Karikó is the person who invented the method of creating this vaccine. So it's a great success for Hungarian science, I think. And there are many, many more Hungarian scientists like her in the United States who are contributing to the development of science here in the United States, businessmen in the United States who really invented something. So we are connecting these people all together, and we would like to include them into our activities in terms of business promotion, in terms of scientific cooperation and things like that. So basically, these three fields they are the most important in our activity: investment promotion plus the export, the startup companies and helping them to enter the US market, and the Hungarian scientific and business diaspora, who are a kind of bridge between the two countries, United States and Hungary.
That's, I don't know how you're able to spend time with me today. You're way too busy. You've got too much going on.
Yeah, sure. But you know, one thing is that we have a lot of things to do, but the other thing is that we are enjoying it. So when you're enjoying what you do, then you find time for that.
There you go. Well, that's good. So let's kind of dive into a couple of things you talked about. I think one that's kind of interesting and also I think kind of informative to our audience is, so you obviously have led trade missions and brought companies into the U.S. to tour and learn about our ecosystem here. Obviously, now you're doing a lot of, as you mentioned, work virtually to have these mentor sessions and sort of virtual pitch events and so on. So let's maybe move play the movie forward 6 or 12 months when we're able to travel again and we've all been vaccinated. Thanks to wonderful Hungarian science. What do you imagine? Let's just assume we're able to, go to in-person trade missions again, and we're sort of past this pandemic. How do you see an integrated approach and being able to utilize some of what you've developed here during the pandemic in terms of the virtual interaction that you've created for companies to discover the U.S. market, or do you see going back to totally in person? What do you envision in terms of your systems to help Hungarian companies?
Sure. This past year, we learned a lot. I think, and we discovered new opportunities as well, because it turned out that using virtual environment can be very effective for certain activities. Not for everything, but in the case of the startup companies and pitch competition, sometimes it's a very good supplemental instrument to in-person events. So and I'm very happy that we did this in the past year, because it maintained the continuous interest of Hungarian companies in the US market and also. So we provided a platform, a forum, where Hungarians and Americans could meet, and they started to get to know each other. So I think that it was a very important bridge, these virtual events between the two different worlds, prior COVID-19 and after COVID-19 3. So that's why I found this a very successful and very important achievement, that we could do this during this pandemic time. So what I expect now is really a kind of combination of activities. Because, as I mentioned, that something can be done very effectively through the internet and through in the virtual environment. And we also have very good partners in Hungary, which are very active in promoting Hungarian startups. You know very well the so-called Input program, which provides advices, funding, and suggestions for Hungarian companies which are interested in the US market. And because there is a very big pressure on the Hungarian companies for internationalization, so I expect that the number of the companies which would like to enter the US market will increase in the coming months. First, because we maintain their interest during this period. So there are already a lot of companies which are preparing to enter in person in the US market. So they already started to learn a lot of the environment and the business circumstances. And there are a lot of companies like that. And when the pandemic is over and the in-person opportunities open and more cautious companies also become brave enough to come to the United States, I think that this combination of efforts will result in increasing number of companies which would come to the United States, which means that there will be, I believe, a lot of in-person events coming if everything goes well, of course, in terms of the vaccination. So I think that there will be a lot of Hungarian companies which will come to the United States next year. And regarding the industrial distribution of these companies, I think that everything which is related to COVID-19 implications, which might be education, which might be healthcare, which might be financial sector, which might be cybersecurity. So everything which is related to this, these companies will be very much interested in entering the US market because they will feel that there will be a growing demand for those products and companies which can handle this kind of crisis situations, not just now, but in the future as well. So we must be prepared. So they will feel, in my opinion, that there will be a continuously growing demand for this kind of products and services. So I think that there will be a kind of healthy combination of virtual events and in-person events, but the demand will be very high to come to the United States. That's what it is my feeling and in my experience and I expect that this would happen.
Good. Oh, that's great. Well, I hope our immigration policy gets back to a place where it's easier and easier for companies to come in and for people to move as it makes sense. So let's maybe flip to the investment side and talk a little bit about the FDI. And you had mentioned that there are a variety of industries that are very strong in Hungary. Are there certain industries that you find either are in high demand now in Hungary in terms of market entry, or ones that you find historically have been strong? What are the kind of the primary industries that are in demand right now for Hungary?
Yeah, in the past, I would say in the past 3 decades, after the systemic changes from socialist to market economies, a completely new economic structure developed in Hungary. So that's the first, which must be understood. And as a result of that, now the structure of the economy is completely different compared to the 25 or 30 years ago. So our major industry now is related to automotive industry, so car industry. So we received a lot of German, Japanese, and US investments in these fields, which means that we are very significant car manufacturers in the world. And it also means that the related industries also developed a lot. The subcontractor system has developed, so there are very good companies which are able in Hungary, which are able to supply parts or components for anything which is related to the car industry. And this car industry also relates to the higher education, because a lot of human resources are required, highly skilled engineers are required in this sector. So it means also that this company started to support several Hungarian universities. So there is the human resources available still in Hungary, especially in the engineering. So this is one very important field. The other is related to the healthcare sector and health sciences. In Hungary, we have 4 very good medical schools, which in fact has very strong contacts with US universities and US to this sector. Not last because we have the so-called Hungarian Medical Association of America in the United States, which includes several hundreds of Hungarian-born or Hungarian origin doctors and medical providers. So this is a sector which is also very important, which means that the medical device sector also quite developed in Hungary. So I would say that everything which is related to the healthcare sector is also something which must attract the attention of potential investors, I believe. The third very important field that I would like to mention is related to the very new technologies. And this is partly related to the automotive industry because it relates to automatization, which means that self-driving cars, we have a very good, excellent test facility in Hungary for autonomous driving. And I think that this is something very unique, which also can attract US researchers in Hungary. So that's very important. The third, I would say it's a completely different sector, which is the agriculture. So we have excellent opportunities and excellent endowments of fertile soil and healthy food. So we are very famous of that. So the agricultural sector is something which is based more and more on organic food and organic production, which excludes genetically modified production, which is not possible by law in Hungary. So that's a completely different field, but now it's also very, very competitive. And also it requires high technological level as well. So when we are talking about car industry and agriculture, the traditional sense was that, oh, it's a completely different because the car industry is high tech, while the agriculture is not, it's a low tech. No, it's not true anymore, of course. So both sectors are based on high tech technologies, which is very, very important. So I would say that we must mention the agricultural sector because it's really, really cool. There are a lot of other sectors. I would like to mention one more, definitely, which is I wouldn't say that it's a sector. It's an activity. It's a kind of service which is related to cybersecurity. We Hungarians, not personally me, but many Hungarians are very good at mathematics and logical thinking and things like that. For example, the operational method of the computers were invented by a Hungarian, Friedrich von Neumann, whose grave is in Princeton, in fact. So we were always very good in this kind of STEM sciences. The Hungarian young mathematicians are very famous, and they always won the mathematical Olympics. Or in most cases, they won. So we are very good at that. And it also relates to cybersecurity, which is currently a very important one. So if you ask, I think, a real expert in the United States that who are the best in cybersecurity technology and logic and thinking, I'm almost certain that they would mention Hungary as one of the top 5 countries in this field. So this is another sector. It's a very future-oriented sector, I think, and I believe which will, and everybody knows that this kind of technological development that we are witnessing today are raising a lot of cybersecurity threats, which must be managed. And I think that we Hungarians are very good, well positioned in terms of providing services in this field. So this is just a kind of sample of industries, because there are many others where you can find very competitive companies which might attract funding, for example, or foreign direct investment, and which would result in a very profitable business in the future. But so if anyone of us is interested, just feel free to contact me. I can provide much more information about various sectors and various opportunities. And as I also mentioned to you, that there are dedicated Hungarian organizations which are especially dealing with attracting foreign direct investment. So we have a lot of very good and very well presented papers, brochures, presentations, which can be provided to the potential investors. So I encourage everybody to contact us if you are interested in entering not just the Hungarian market, but the European market, because as I mentioned to you, that it's not just Hungary, it's a European Union, in fact, where you can trade and where you can travel and where you can invest very freely, especially after the travel bans are lifted due to the COVID-19.
Yes, that's no, it's really amazing to see. I mean, for a country of 10 million people, the diversity of industry and really the depth of expertise that is in Hungary. So I'm just, as you were talking, I was thinking about your role, and I guess in U.S. parlance, it seems like your role is in working with companies is much like a quarterback. You are able to, you have so many resources at your disposal, either in helping companies go into Hungary and the ecosystem there, or in helping Hungarian companies enter the U.S. and the networks you've developed here. Is that a reasonable metaphor to sort of look at it as sort of the general contractor of sort of investment and trade?
I would say a general information provider and network manager.
So that center of the hub.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So we have the information, we have the contacts, and we have the network. And what we do is to manage all these things at the same. Whenever somebody is interested in Hungary, we are able to provide either personally or through our partners in Hungary the necessary information. Whenever somebody from Hungary is interested in entering the US market, we are trying to manage our network here, which includes various and multiple service providers. So we must be able to provide them with the necessary information and the network. And obviously, after that, it's up to the companies to move forward. So what we can do is that creating the setting, as you said, setting the table in a way. And then it's up to the companies. What we do is that providing the information and providing the contact persons. And after that, the companies, if they are thinking seriously, they should be able to develop further and should be able to find the right persons through this network, through the key persons, and after that they can do business, either attracting capital or selling products or elaborating a marketing plan or anything. So what we are here, we are supporting them. We are providing every possible way the resources and the information. And then we are still there in behind, and we are very happy to hear the success stories.
Well, and that's actually a perfect segue for where I'd like to go, is to talk about, and maybe if you would, while I'm sort of introducing this, think of a company that you've worked with that has whether it's they've gone from the U.S. to Hungary or Hungary to the U.S. And done it really well. A company that you would see as sort of a blueprint for how to do it. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what that company did that was different than maybe some of the companies that don't do it so well. What are some of the things, whether it was what the people did or their timing, or what were some of the attributes that made that company's internationalization more successful than the normal or the average?
Yeah, what we saw that in most cases, and I think that in 90% of the success cases, the owners or somebody at the company had already knew a lot about the US market. So the previous knowledge of the market was always very important. So the most success stories were based on the previous knowledge of the owners or the managers, either because they studied in the United States or because they already had some business contacts in the previous decades, I would say. So that was always a very important point, that they knew the market. It does not mean that companies which do not know the market would not be able to become successful, but they must understand that first they must learn. So it's a kind of learning curve. So the first step should be that they must understand the market, either because of they had already contacts with the country, or they want to study this, they want to learn this, and they want to explore the market in terms, how does it work, what are the prices, that's very important, what costs they face, How can they settle in the United States? How can they open a bank account? So they must know all of these details, and they must understand the American business culture. So in our experiences, up till now, those companies were the most successful which done this kind of homework, either through their earlier contacts or because they learned that. So that's I think that's very important. The second point is the product. So, so if you want to sell something which is worthless, it doesn't matter who will give you a suggestion or advice, because then they would not be able to sell that. So the product is very important. It must reply to a real demand. I would mention to you a very interesting company. It's called Sign All, which is a company which tries to translate spoken text to the deaf, which means that they are using their hands and they are able to translate the text into written form. I think it's an amazing initiative and amazing technology. And these companies worked so hard in the past 3 years in the United States that they step by step entered into various universities where there are American Sign Language departments. And now they have more and more contacts in these kind of companies. So they are here, but it's a step-by-step project. So it's very, very difficult, and it requires a lot of efforts from their side. Obviously, they have the capital because they are very promising. It means that they could secure the first round, the second round, the third round, so many rounds of investments because the investors believe them. But definitely they must be very dedicated to this task. So that's the second point, that you must have the product, you must have the dedicated people, and you must have the capital. And still you must decide whether it's worth enter the US market and spend a lot of money compared to other locations. That's a key question. You must answer to the question very clearly. Is the US market is right for me or not? Is the US market really where I want to sell my products, or it's rather a European market? Because it's much easier for Hungarians. It's closer, it's cheaper, you know better the culture. So that's the second point, that you must have the product, and you must believe, and not just must believe, but you must know that this product can be sold in the US market. So I think that this is the second very important point. And the third point, which I observed recently, that sooner or later you must be here. You must be here. So it's not enough to sell your products virtually, but you must somehow be based in the United States, either establish a company or buy a US company. We also observed some kind of some examples when a Hungarian company in various sectors simply bought a US competitor, for example, and entered the market. So that's also a very, very important thing, that you must somehow secure your location in the US market personally, which also means a lot of administrative barriers and a lot of costs. So but it's only the third step, I think. That first you must really know everything. So you must understand the market, you must understand your product, you must understand how can you sell this product in the market, and after that, only after that, you must come to the US market. I saw several examples when various programs, and we also try to do something similar through our business development center in Washington, that we must show the market personally to this company. So we somehow should elaborate a program through which the companies can come to the United States, spend 3 months, 2 months, learn about the market, and that in person activity here, meeting the guys who are deciding here on finances or marketing or selling products and things like that. So you must be here, and after that you can decide that, okay, this market is right for me, and I can think in relocating or creating a company in the United States. So I think that basically these are the most important things, that you must answer to these questions. You must have a product. You must understand that this market is right for you, and only after that you can be here personally. It's my experience. Maybe some other consulates or some other trade missions has different experiences because they might have different strategy or they might have different programs. But this is my my experience.
Well, it's interesting that you started with. I would position it as market knowledge or intelligence and network, because at the expo we held in late October, we had several case studies that were presented, and 100% of the company executives that were sharing their case study started with network being the number one thing that helped them be successful in whether they were going from the U.S. out or from an international company into the U.S. 100% of their first, first objective or first priority was building the network as they saw as the thing that made them most successful. So I think it fits in exactly to what you were saying. You have obviously many priorities looking ahead to the coming 12 and 24 months. Are there particular connections or resources that you're looking to connect to or that would be particularly helpful for you?
In fact, yes, and it relates to a one-time opportunity in every 4 years. It sounds very mysteriously now. But
the Olympics?
There is a country group in Central Europe which is called Visegrad 4 countries. This is a regional cooperation between 4 countries: the Slovakia, Czech Republic, Poland, and Hungary. And each of the country is a president of this group for 1 year. And Hungary will become the president of this initiative this June. And it lasts for 1 year. And always during this period, we want to promote the whole Visegrad 4 countries, but especially Hungary, obviously. So I think that there will be an increased demand from Hungary to come to the United States to show us. This is the platform where we can show our companies, show our experiences and resources. So I think that there will be a very big demand from Hungarian companies to come to the United States beginning June this year, for at least 1 year. So I think that we are going to organize even more events in the coming years, and maybe programs as well, which might include short programs, just a couple of days or 2 weeks or something like that. But I think that there will be several companies here, Hungarian companies, which would require multiple and various services. Only for some of them, only just a taste of the US market, for others, much more concrete plans. But I believe that this would generate a large demand from the Hungarian side. And we are here, so we are definitely trying to help them. And that's why we also want to further strengthen our network here, which could include any kind of service provider. I wouldn't say now only one kind of service or this kind of service, because I don't know at this stage, because I don't know the companies. But what I know is that there will be a lot of companies, and there will be a lot of events where I would like to rely on you guys and the service providers. That's why I would like to work still a lot on this network building with you and the other providers and other networks. So that's what I'm going to do in this first half of the year, to preparing for these huge inflow of Hungarian companies.
That's fantastic. Well, this has been really delightful, Tamas, and I think our audience has gained a lot. Is there anything in the end here that you'd like to share as a sort of a closing thought about maybe even looking ahead in terms of the? I think you've been very bullish in terms of your view in terms of the opportunities to internationalize, and again, whether it's U.S. companies going to Hungary or Hungarian companies coming to the U.S. But anything else that you'd like to share with the audience?
I think that only one thing that I'm very happy to be involved in this network, for example, because you are the guys with whom I can work, and you are who can help me, in fact. So I'm utilizing your resources, in fact, because this is how can I provide some meaningful promotion to our companies and advices to our companies. So you as a mentor, or you as a service provider or subcontractor. So there are a lot of opportunities, I think, ahead. And because I also see the demand from the Hungarian side as well. That's why I expect these bonds to become even stronger in the coming year. That's my expectation, and I hope, of course.
Fantastic. Oh, well, it's always delightful, and certainly please come back sometime and give us some updates. We'd love to hear of your plans as the it sounds like after the middle of the year, after June, there'll be additional opportunity, and certainly we'd expect to be well vaccinated or more vaccinated by June. So almost a double opportunity in terms of the economy's opening back up, and then obviously your priorities and the influx you're expecting. So please come back and give us updates as you have them.
Sure. Thank you so much, Bill. See you soon.
Thank you. Yeah, sounds good. Well, I'll sign off for now, and please join us on our next podcast. And in the meantime, just subscribe so that you get updated on all of our upcoming podcasts. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.